Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and in today's video featuring the iniBuilds A300, let's have a look at the descent preparation. We should start it between 100 to 80 miles out. We did take a little bit longer in our cruise tutorial, so we are now only like 60 nautical miles out from the top of descent, but that should still be ample time to prepare for our arrival. So the first thing we're going to do over here is to update our weather so that we know what we're expecting. And as you can see, Indianapolis has rather bad weather at the moment. It's fog, vertical visibilities of 200 feet, altimeter 3022, and generally rather bad visibilities with a wind of 110 at 4. So let's have a look into the charts now to see what we can expect over in Indianapolis. We're going to start right on the airport chart by having a look at what the airport generally looks like, and then later on we'll go into the details. So runway 5 left or right is best for our wind, so 5 right is going to be closest to our cargo since FedEx is parking just over there on the ramp. So that's going to be the runway we'll decide on for our landing. And just by coincidence, it does so happen that this is exactly the runway that we've programmed already. Our star is going to be the JAX 2 arrival, and we are going to go over that in a few moments, provided that we do get our charts showing. Here they are. Okay, JAX 2 on of arrival. Now, we are starting over at Barbie, so let's quickly run over what we've got in our FMS. We're going to go to the plan mode, constraints, select a lower range, and here we go. Okay, so from Barbie we are going to fly via Dnik, Emily, towards JAX. So Barbie, Dnik, Emily, and then we've got JAX. And after JAX, we then got a couple of restrictions on the arrival. So we've got OP. Here we go. We've got OP between 11 and 16,000, and we can see that down here on the plan mode. By the way, the plan mode, in my opinion, is the best display in Airbus aircraft to quickly view your altitude restrictions. Otherwise, you would always have to go over here into the vertical revision and then go back. That's far too much work. Just do it like that. So OP between 11 and 1600. Then we've got a tile below 13,000 and back above 10,000. So a tile below 13, and then we've got back above 10,000. From there we move on towards Sibif at 230 knots and above 7,000 feet. And in here we've got Sibif above 7,000 and 230 knots. From there we proceed towards Patron, 210 knots at 6,000. And again, that's 6,000, 210 knots. And then we make that right-hand turn towards Wenap, and then onto the extended downwind, which is exactly what we've got in here. Alright, from there we are eventually going to join the final. So let's search for the ILS runway 5 right, Cat 2 and 3 chart. And here we go. So the final approach is going to start at Hubs in 2100. And in here we've also got Beckton, 3000. And then Hubs in 2100. That's what we have. Nice. And then for the missed approach, let's have a look at that. Climb to 1500 and climbing right turn to 3000 on heading 148, and outbound on Victor Hotel Papa VOR radial 136 to Osmo. And hold. Okay, so let's see. In here we've got 1500, then an intercept heading on 135 towards Osmo to 3000 and hold. That looks good enough to me. Alright, with that our FMS entry is cross-checked. Let's go ahead and do the rest of the setup now. So next up we are going to go into the takeoff and approach page. We are going to use a flap 30 and 40 approach here. That is going to give us a little bit lower deck angle on the approach so that we can easier see the runway lines. Now this one is a Cat 2 approach, as you can see. Do we have a Cat 3 minimum as well? Yes, Cat 3 is available as well. Okay, so we can do a Cat 3 approach down to a minimum of 50 foot radio. So let's select minimum, and we're going to select 50 feet down here. and that is in. That means we're going to leave the MDA blank, and we're going to use the 30 at 40 up here, and we are going to use a 5 knots correction for the approach, 138 then. Okay, then we can move on to the go around, and over here we just make sure the reduction and acceleration altitudes are set correctly. So we're going up to the top of the charts, and we can see our elevation is 791, so we're going to use 1791 for both our thrust reduction as well as our acceleration altitudes. And for the engine out acceleration, we are going to use our MSA. So in this case, it's going to be 3,100 feet. So let's make it easy, 3,100 on the engine out acceleration altitude. Looks like the iniBuilds doesn't want to take those at this moment, but that's okay. So that stuff is all in. And with that, we are basically prepared on the FMS. Now, on the mode, we can reach the descent forecast and we can insert our winds over here. Now, we can get those from our SimBrief flight plan only, so let's just quickly go ahead and see if we can find any wind data. So, we're going to enter it in this format. Flight level / wind direction / wind speed. Here we go. Then we can also do flight level 200, and that is going to be 274 at 19. Then we can do flight level 100, giving us a wind of 241 at 13. Alright, and that is our wind now inserted. We don't need to fill out the ground wind, doesn't really make much of a difference. Okay, so that is our basic checks of the flight plan completed. We've got a long runway, so we're going to go for auto brakes low, and we make sure that our landing elevation, 800 feet, is correctly inserted over there. So, quick word over here as to what we are using our different setups for. We've got that little altitude bug over here. Now that one we would use for a barometric minimum. So if we were flying a Cat 1 approach, then we would use that to set up our minimums. If we are flying a Cat 2 or Cat 3 approach, we're going to use the DH up here. Now today we go for a Cat 3 approach, so we've set our DH to 50 feet. Alright, last thing we need to do then is to select our frequencies. So we've got 111.15 and 050 on the course. 111.15, and the course is going to go to 050. And that's our approach setup completed. And fittingly, we are just about reaching our top of descent. So let's dial down our altitude, and in order to actually start the descent, we need to pull it out. So dial down, and then pull down here, and as you can see, that engaged the profile descent mode, and now we're going down exactly on our VNAV track, or rather, doing 1,000 feet a minute until we actually reach the VNAV profile, and once we reach it, we're going to descend on the VNAV profile. Alright, so that is pretty much our setup. Now a few things for us to consider as we start going down. First of all, there are 2 landing flap settings available on the A300. We can do flaps 40 or flaps 20. If we went for the 15 or 20 option, then we had to select it on the GPWS landing flaps down here as well. Since we are going to do an auto land today, we are however going to use the 30 and 40 option, with the thought behind that being that if we are descending on a 3-degree glide slope, the more flaps we use, the lower pitch we are going to have on final approach. Now, since we are doing the approach in very bad visibility conditions, with a vertical visibility of just 200 feet, we are going to see the minimum, we are going to see the runway only very close to the minimum. For that reason, I've selected the higher flap setting, as the nose is going to be lower, and therefore it is going to be easier to see the ground. And that's about as easy as it gets. Alright, that is going to conclude this video on the descent preparation in the iniBuilds A300. I do hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, do let me know in the comments below. And as always, I am very much looking forward to reading your take on this one. Now finally, if you did like the video, be sure to leave a like in YouTube as well, as it does really help with the algorithms. And finally, if you really love what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and then I see you all again on the next one.